Hey everybody, how you doing? And it's Saturday morning. I've actually had coffee already, so it's already empty. Sorry about that. Hit the mic with the coffee mug. Not a good ASMR. Um, so hopefully my audio level is fine. I've found that this snowball microphone is not very omnidirectional, and I have to actually speak into it. So hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Uh, so, one of the things I wanted to do this morning, and of course I was preparing for it up until the last minute, was to spotlight something, and I'm going to call this segment the Blue Plate Special. So, um, as we all know, Blue Plate Specials, maybe you don't know, was something that you could get at a diner, and it was usually their signature dish that was inexpensive, and you could belly up to the diner and get your fill. So um, there was also automats would have something like that too, where you had a dish that you could get. An automat was something where you didn't have to have any human interaction. You just put your coins in the machine, and there was a full kitchen with staff behind the other side of the panel, and they would put your dinner plate into the box, and you would open the door and retrieve your food. So I think the current generation of youth would appreciate automats again, because you know sometimes you just don't want to deal with people. So maybe we should bring them back. I don't know. Anyway, uh, getting back to the webcam here. What I want to talk about in the Blue Light Special, I was doing a deep dive into responsive design. I used to be a web developer, but this was back in the dark ages when you used tables to format, and CSS was a pipe dream. I did do web development after CSS came out, but by then we were doing stuff that wasn't really next to the metal. Excuse me. It was all templated stuff, so I never really kept up with the technology, and as often happens in the middle of the night, I wake up and I'm like, why the hell am I awake? Yeah, anyway, um, and it occurred to me that I want to do something that's called responsive stack design in HyperCard, so that if you resize the stack size for a larger screen, that it can respond to that. Or if you take one that's designed for a larger screen, it could scale itself if you change the size. And I was thinking about, how could I do that? Would I have to create a focal point? Um, Maybe the upper left corner or something, and say everything should shove up into that upper left corner, or should it be in the center and then spread out? I just started thinking about how I could do something like that. There are add-ons to HyperCard for lining up fields and things like that. Maybe something like that could be leveraged to do it. Anyway, um, just a thought I had middle of the night, and it stuck with me, and I started playing around with it this morning, and it occurred to me that I know what responsive web design is, but I never really did that much with it, except what you could do with like setting maximum width, things like that, the really crude kind of responsive design we did back in the day. So I was looking at a responsive design article. It's an introduction to responsive web design. and it made reference to Ethan Marcotte in 2010 wrote an article about fluid grids and things like that. And then there was the, I guess it's the seminal book, Zoe Mickley's, Glenwater's book on flexible web design. So I kind of started poking around in there to see, how that might translate to a HyperCard stack. Probably not very well. But anyway, I like the concept, and I'm thinking it might be something I could do, even if it's just for a designer. So that's the where's the beef this morning. Don't really want to go there. Enough about AI right now. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today, if I can find the web page. Yeah, I'll bring it up later. Can't seem to locate it right now, but it's probably because it's on my phone. Anyway, yeah, we'll talk about it later. Let's get into today's subject, shall we? So this is the responsive web design thing that I was playing around with. If you had fields like this and you made it larger, you would want to move the navigation. That's, maybe I could have it somehow have an attribute where it says it should stay in this quadrant, in this corner, and then the title should, go all the way across, things like that. So I'd have to have some kind of attributes that you would add, or perhaps the code could recognize that if it's at the top and it's the width of the nearly the width of the thing, it could proportionally do it. I don't know. Something to think about. So anyway, let's get out of that, because that's not today's topic. What I thought we would do today, and where did I hide it? Come on, Eric. Is the concept of a content management system for a website. So I have a website that has a blog in it, but I haven't blogged in it since December. And I started writing, I've been hand editing the HTML for the blogs. And that's tedious, especially for someone like me, where I don't do web development day in, day out, and I certainly don't do it in text-only tools, or at least that's what I'm doing now, but I didn't used to. I don't like WYSIWYG editors. I've never cared for them. Historically, they mangle your HTML, so I don't like going there. So I've been hand editing them, but it's tedious. It takes time. So I'm going to build a HyperCard stack that will take some information that you put into fields and attributes for it and generate HTML for it. It's overkill, and it's exactly the kind of engineering project that I love, where it's like, I'm a lazy programmer, and that sounds negative, but it's actually a positive thing. Lazy programmers are programmers who don't want to revisit code. I want to write something so that it's robust and can handle all of the kind of border conditions and things that you have to deal with, so that I don't have to go back and visit that old code again. And if I have to, I want to be able to quickly understand where it is, how it works. So commenting your code is important. Having some kind of preamble that says what the heck the thing's trying to do, what problem it's solving, is useful. But I only want to visit it once. Everybody knows that documentation is crap most of the time for projects that you work on because customers don't want to pay for documentation. So I feel that commenting your code sufficiently to like go, oh yeah, that's what it's talking about. I'm not talking about writing a book. There was a book on programmers and programming. I can't remember the title. And in it, it was covering different programmers and their styles. And one of them was a guy that wrote pages of text and then a line of code, and then more pages of text and a couple of lines of code. And it was like a novel with code embedded in it. And I looked at that and I said, nobody would want to try to maintain that. Great for a teaching tool, maybe, but as production code, forget it. Somebody would strip it all out. Anyway, so there's a balance there, I think. So anyway, this is a content management system, and the idea is that I'm going to be able to write articles, blog posts for my website, drop them in here, and then push a button, and it'll present a preview of it in my web browser. I try to target IE 4.5, and if it renders okay there, it goes up on the web. There's some problems with that, but I'm working on it. I'm relearning how to do HTML from the old style. So it's definitely not responsive. CSS1 didn't have a lot of features in it, but I'm trying to find a balance there without using any of the modern stuff. But this should help me with generating at least a template for things. So this is what I got so far. You've got a couple of text boxes. There's the title and the body. I don't have a footer. I just threw this together last night. And the idea behind it is that if you this is the rough case. You got H1 through H6 for headers, right? All I've done is H1. And all I'm doing is saying if your text is greater than font size 12, it must be a header. So it's really crude, but there you go. If you add 2 returns, so you've got a space in here like this, that's a paragraph start. If you've got bold text embedded, it does strong. If you've got italicized text, it does italics. If you've got italicized text and bold, it's smart enough to maintain both of those. I've got the beginnings of, like, you're doing a unordered list. It recognizes that you've got this character here, and it says, oh, you must be doing a list. And then I've got a little bit of code that will translate special characters into the, I think they're escape sequences or something like that. Can't remember what they called it. So anyway, let's take a look at this. So if I edit this and I say, let's make this style italic and bold, and we're going to put a couple of spaces there. You hit the generate button, it rewrites the output over here. So I've got this hard-coded header in here. Puts the title in like you would expect. Sorry if you can't really see the text here, it's a little small. Maybe we can focus in on this. Let me see if I can edit this thing. So we got to go to capture, studio mode. Bear with me a second here. lock this. There, that should be a little better. Okay. I just have to make sure I stay in here. Okay, so before we go any further, let's see who's in the chat. We've got Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Good morning, Dave. Hopefully the sun has risen by now over there. Everything is broken garage. Late morning for Ryan, because he's an hour and a half away from me. Who else do we have? Eric Rangel. Good morning, Eric. Everything is already covered. You, Garth Beagle. Good morning. Retro Techie. Hey, I don't have it to show, but I got your sticker. Thank you. And I'm sorry if you can hear it in the background. I'm 3D printing something for my wife. So, who else do we have? Trina. Good morning, Trina. Sorry, no hardware today, Trina. I lied to you again. Trina's been asking me to do some hardware repair, and I promised her I would today, and I reneged on that promise. So, soon, Trina, soon. Maybe I'll get on Dave's stream tomorrow. Do I have everybody? Gut Bomb, hey! Need more table tags as layout. Yeah. Bill Goats. Hey, Bill Goats, how you doing? All right. I think I got everybody. Yeah, HTML attributes for font size. Yeah. Yep, keep it old school. So, all right. So anyway, the idea here, hopefully you guys can see this better now. Let me get rid of studio mode. Oh yeah, you should be able to read that. So, it just slaps paragraphs around the things that are paragraphs. Does the header. Here you can see it's doing a strong with emphasis. And then whatever these doohickeys are called, I can't remember, where you do the ampersand and it's not an escape sequence, but anyway, I forget what they call that. I'm sure some of the web developers on the stream can remember what the frick they're called. Mostly I used it to do non-blank spaces when I was, back in the day. And then you close out the tags. So, I haven't messed up the order at all so far. It seems to be okay. And there you go. And then I can save it to a file. So let's go back to here. Wrong keyboard. I'm going to save it as test.html. I'm going to replace the file. We're going to. I don't have any of the integration built in yet. So hopefully eventually I'll have buttons where you can say, oh, open the file. Oh yeah, here's the website. Sorry, you can't see the whole thing here. Let me size it for the new screen size. There we go. So it's a really simple website. And I've got blog posts, and I haven't blogged since December. You can see I've got, crappy images, just like you would back in the old days. This is hosted by Macintosh Garden. If you Ask Pretty Please, you can get a website where you can store your stuff. So it's kind of fun. It's like the old web where it was home.macintosh.garden with the tilde and then your account and etc. So it's kind of fun. He also has image storage available up there if you keep the images small. So that's what I'm using. But, so I could create a template for, that's where I want to go eventually. And then you would fill in the template. I could use some kind of markup language, which is kind of what I'm doing by using styles and different fonts and things like that in here. So let's go look at the page. So if I do a file, open file location, and there you go. So it does the header, it's got the plain text, and there's your italic bold. There's some bold, italic, and italic bold. Here's a list, and then the copyright and registered and the trademark symbols. So let's take a quick look at the code. So let's get that out of the way. This code is not very robust. Sorry, I gotta get into the stack, script. Sorry, there's too much stuff in the way. Alright. Okay, so I've got a stack function, and you pass it the title text, and then the body is actually the name of the card stack field. And the reason for that is HyperCard, if you do a put statement to put the contents of a field, yeah, the doc type is too modern. Yeah, gonna have to mess with that. If you put the contents of a field into a variable, it loses the all of the field formatting with a put statement. I don't know why. I got to figure out a better way of dealing with that, but right now what you have to do is refer to the field directly. Oh, Trina, what computer are you using to do this work? This is my Power Macintosh G3. So this is my daily driver desktop. I also have a PowerBook G3 that I use for mobile, and they're both running OS 8.6. Well, that's about HyperCard, so gotta get off that if we do. About this computer. So it's got, this was a channel gift from Garth Beagle. Not this computer, the G3, the PowerBook G3 was. Where did I get the Power Macintosh G3? I don't remember where I picked this machine up. Gosh, I'm going to have to go back and look. Did I buy it? Oh, yeah, I remember. Locally. Some guy was dumping the Mac stuff that he wasn't... He works in... I think he likes... what's the premium workstation stuff? Sun. He likes Sun machines, but he had this Macintosh and he decided to get rid of it. So I picked it up for like $20. Anyway. But it's got a decent amount of memory in it and everything. So that's the machine I'm using. Yeah, I bought the G3 Tower. Alright, back to the stack. So what you're doing in this is I've got the HTML, that's the output text. I've got some booleans for whether I'm inside an emphasis, inside strong, etc. Sometimes you don't want to output the text that you're working with because you're substituting something for it. So I've got a lot boolean for that, whether I'm in a paragraph or not, and then I've got 2 strings to handle the substitution for characters. So that's going to have to be expanded. What I should be doing is writing something that has a parser that would look for and do key value match pairing to figure things out, or to have a mapping between the text attributes like the font, the size, etc., to say what tag should be used if the text is this. This is a prototype, so it's just hard-coded. Eric Rangel asks, where can we get accessories for old Macs? Is there a computer museum in Ohio that has them? Could there be someplace in Ohio that has like all of the things? And sometimes you can purchase those things. And then you can get modern solutions for vintage equipment. I know. Joe's Computer Museum. Go to jcm-1.com to get all of your computer needs. This channel is not endorsed by Joe, but I endorse Joe. So maybe Joe eventually will get to the point where he can sponsor businesses. So he has helped me out quite a bit. In fact, recently I was lamenting the fact that I didn't have a way to hook up my 2GS to my Extron. And he's like, oh, I can whip up a cable for you. 15 minutes later, he whipped up a cable and he shipped it to me for the cost of shipping. So Joe's great people. Thank you, Trina, for putting a link in there. So, all right. So I have, the beginning part of the document where I do the doc type, which of course, according to Gutbaum, is too modern for this web page. So I did have a reference book for the old web, but it's not very good. I need to find a decent point in time in a book that tells you the target that I want for the time period. So I'm thinking around 1995. I want a little bit of CSS, but not a lot. And there is a point where you can kind of cut it off and say this is the reference I'm trying to do. So if it renders in Internet Explorer 4.5, I use it. That's where I'm at it right now. All right, so anyway, I got a head, I got the title, got the body. Like I said, I always start off with a paragraph. I don't know if this is going to be good form or not, but that's what I'm doing. And then I repeat through each character of the body. And I also grab the text style and the text size and store that. I need to have a look-ahead parser, so this thing does the next character that's available, and you'll see why later. And then the first thing I do is I look for a header tag. Right now I'm only implementing H1, and so if the text size is greater than 12 and I'm not already in a header, then I output the header tag and I say I'm now in a header. If the text size is not greater than 12, so it's 12 or less, then and if I'm in a header, then I need to close it out. So this is the pattern for all of it. It just looks for, did you start something and did you finish something, to wrap it in HTML tags. Then I do strong, same kind of pattern. I look to see if the text style is bold. Oops. And there's a bug. Oh, no, no, that's not. Okay. I don't want to apply bold to a header. I don't know why. I just decided that I'm not going to bold headers. I'm just going to say you're in a header, it's an H1. Leave it at that. Um, so then I use the strong tag, and then if I'm no longer, the text style is not bold, then I break it out. Same thing for italic. Unordered list. So I look for this character. That's an indicator that you've got an unordered list. Probably need to come up with multiple characters. Now, you can see how this is kind of becoming similar to Markdown. Um, I don't know why they call it Markdown. It's a markup language. So, riddle me this, Batman. What's the history behind that? Why did they call it Markdown? Anyway, maybe because it was a markup language and they wanted to be different. Couldn't call it markup. So, anyway, so I'm looking for this bullet point, and then detecting whether I'm in a list or not, and then you handle each list. It looks for carriage returns to figure out whether or not you're still in a list. This is where that next character is used. So I look ahead to see if there is another bullet point at the beginning of the line, or for the next character. And if there isn't, then I know I'm at the end of the list. Now I could have done something like 2 returns or something like that would indicate the end of it, but so because Markdown is a cheap version of markup. Okay. Alright, makes sense. Well, this is an even cheaper version of markup, so what do I call this? Mark low? Lowest common denominator? LCD. I'll call it LCD. And then I end the list, and then I've got my, new paragraph. And then looking to see whether I'm outputting the text or not, because if I'm doing, I've noticed it's this bullet point character. I don't want to output the bullet point character, so I tell it not to. Sorry, get back to the code here. So we decide whether we're going to output or not, and then I go through and substitute the character from that list. So if I've got a registered trademark, or of course it only implements these 3 right now. So if you got a registered trademark, copyright, or a TM for trademark, it substitutes for those. Then it returns the HTML. Let's get into the code for this button. So this is the convert button script. It just takes the contents of the title field and then the short name of the card field body. I could have just sent it the string body, but old habits die hard. And then take the results of that and put it in the target card field. So it's very crude. Oh yeah, and there's the save button. So again, file handling, that's just in HyperCard by default. There's no way to go out and retrieve a list of files in a folder or something like that. You can ask for a file, or you can get the answer for a file, so you can go select a file to open it. So there are external commands that do file management where you can do things like delete files and etc. I'll be integrating those into it. So you ask for a file name for it. It is the special variable that is used to indicate some response to the ask routine. Don't ask me why it doesn't do ask as a function so that you could just get the return value. You open the file. If it's got something in it, I just write out the card field target to the file and then close it. So it's pretty simple. So if you go back and I look at the save again, opens up a standard dialog box, you put the name to the file and do it. That's it. It's really simple code. Very crude, but for something I whipped up in an hour, it's not bad. And I could see where I could set a project and have a working folder for the project. You could have, you know, like a template for the project that told you the structure of it. I could do, I worked on something in PHP back in 2000, so 24 years ago. That was a templating system for generating web content. It could generate static pages, but it could also be used live on it was a templating architecture for live sites, where it did something like Java, JSP, Java tags in Java that would go out and like execute a query, retrieve data from a database, and then fill a grid. You know, JSP was a technology back then. I didn't know it existed at the time. I just said, oh, I should be able to do XML formatted tags embedded in HTML and then use a processor to pre-process the request, generate the page, and return it. Java server pages, thank you. Yeah, awful. But back in 2000, that was the new hotness. And I wrote a PHP tag library. I think it was in PHP 2 point something. It was before 3 came out. Maybe 3 came out about the same time. I still have the code for that. I should really resurrect it and then maybe host it on an ancient web server here. Oh yeah, ASP in PHP back then. That's what I did. Worked for a consulting company, and we built web pages. And back when it was the new hotness, and nobody in our staff knew how to do web development. So I read a book over the weekend and lied and said I knew how to do it. And our first client got the god-awful worst application, to the point where they ended up dumping it and saying, no, we're not doing this. But we learned how to do web development by doing that. There was a kid, I was told to, I asked why we didn't have any interns at work. And he said, because you haven't developed the program for an internship, so go do it. Small consulting company, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was at a Linux users group meeting and heard this kid talking behind me. I say kid, this teenager. He was just out of high school, talking about wanting to do some web development, and had been playing around with it. I turned around and I said, you want an internship? And he's like, yeah. So brought him into the office. We paid him, and he was the first intern we ever had. We had decided as a company we were going to pay them real wages, and we were going to, it wasn't an unpaid internship, it was paid. And we paid them half the rate of a full-time employee. So this kid got, I think it was $15 an hour back then. So this was quite a long time ago. And the job I gave him was like, we need web controls for calendars and things like that. I want you to JavaScript them up. So he worked on doing that. And his I'll make this story short, but his father was in the construction business and owned a, he was a contractor and had subcontractors and all that. Really wanted his son to go into the family business, and doing that, wasn't convinced that college was worth his time, and he really wanted to go into software development. So I found out years later that him having that internship with our company before he even got to college was enough to convince his dad, you can make money doing this. And his dad agreed that he could go to college. If it didn't work out, then he would get into the construction business. And he still worked for his dad summers and stuff like that. But anyway, got his degree. He went to Michigan State University and got a telecommunications degree. And worked in a couple of places, and I had lost track of him. After the internship, I had left that that company and moved on to other places. He contacted me years later and asked me if I wanted to be one of the founding members of a business he was starting up, and I had to disappoint him. I said, sorry, I got a family, I can't afford to do that. Because he was bootstrapping it. You know, he had one client and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm great. Good luck. I really hope for the best for you, but I can't do that. Didn't hear from him again for several years. Happened to see his company website. He had grown to have 5 employees and was doing web development for Fortune 1000 companies and stuff like that in Michigan. And had started going, he was a Microsoft MVP, had written a book on doing development for something. I don't remember what it was. It was some CMS. And I contacted him. I said, hey, how are you doing? And he's like, great. Want to come work for me? Still didn't work out, but he told me, he said, the fact that you gave me that internship allowed my dad to see the value in me going to college and stuff. I wouldn't be where I am today if you hadn't done that. So thank you. And he's, gosh, it's been 20 years since then, at least. And he sold the business, and he's now retired, and I think he's maybe 45 years old. I don't know. It's crazy. What if I had said yes, even if I had worked part-time for him? Who knows what could have happened, but, it was a missed opportunity, I guess. Anyway, I'm not going to dox him, but that it was awesome and really made me feel good that somebody that I had helped at a young age was able to be very successful. I just really wish I had jumped on his coattails. Anyway, where was I? I totally lost the train of thought there. So I'm going to continue to work on this CMS and at least get it to the point where I can have it post my blog articles up on the website. See how far I can get with it. Anyway, that's pretty much it for today. I didn't really have anything else to show. But, well, what the heck. I can dox him this far. The company was called Gravity Works Design, I believe. And he's... I've lost touch with him again. He's still doing... he's going to events. People that... he made successful through his business are active in the shows and things that go on for web development. I don't remember what they are, but anyway, it was great to know that somebody that I helped out when he was young became very successful. So anyway, and was grateful and remembered me. So that's always nice. Okay, so nothing else to really show. You know, HyperCard's entry level's pretty easy, Trina. I could give you some references where you could go in and just play around with it. Honestly, just go in and start doing stuff with it. You don't have to do any programming to get started. There's things you can do without. That's just you know, authoring is the phrase for it instead of programming. But it's a neat little tool, and it's the original low code environment, if you want to put it in modern terms. I don't think we're there yet for the low code environments, but they're getting better. Microsoft's got the Power Platform stuff. You've got, Salesforce has their environment. IBM's got something. I don't know. I think it's married to Salesforce. There's Bubble, I think, is one of them. And that I've been looking at it because when I went into responsive web stuff, I came across an article where the guy was talking about how these low-code environments are starting to improve. The problem I have with them is that they all make their money off of transactional costs, and that's you don't really know where you're at. And I still like on-premise hosting for things, or being able to host in the cloud, but it's you own what you're hosting. So these software as a service type, low code environments, you don't know what your enterprise agreement's going to be next year. The first hit's free, and then they charge you through the nose for it. On the other hand, if you had extra time to do development, and you had a particular knowledge base that you could leverage, most of these sites have ways that you can build components for sale. So say you had a particular expertise in, underwater basket weaving, and you had an automated robotic system for underwater basket weaving, and you designed a plugin that would go into one of these platforms so that somebody could generate your robotic basket weaving product or something like that, or maybe a designer for it or something like that, whatever. Somebody might, if they really needed underwater basket weaving on their product, they might use your widget, and then you could make some money off of that. These sites do a lot. Let me just show you. Let me switch to the desktop. Okay, so for example, Bubble is one of them, and I get it. It makes sense, but there is a point where low code meets there's no module for that. You got to have code. And if you don't have people that understand how to actually do that, it's got a built-in Rust, not Rust. Yeah, it is a Rust interface, I guess. So there's an API where you can use it to call your modules and things like that. So if you had to, do something with your own proprietary thing, you could put it someplace and then build an interface for it so you could sell that service or whatever, or connect your legacy system so that it could get data from it or something like that. Here's a good thing. What if you had an API, you wrote an API for an expert system that was able to do payroll calculations or something like that, and you had that as an expertise, so you could write that, and then somebody could use it to use it in their application for doing payroll processing or taxes or whatever. So I could see somebody being an independent developer coming up with something where they could make money while they sleep on it. The model for this is like you get 75% of the revenue. Of course, there's a line in there that says that could change at any time. So we all know the dangers of that. Anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting that this is probably the future of a lot of what they call citizen developers. People that are working in an agency, and maybe they're a super user kind of a person, and they know a little bit of technology, but they don't know how to program, but they understand their processes and procedures and stuff. They could get into these low-code environments. So, is it going to pull work away from developers? Probably. But just like any other technology advances. How many people write code in assembly anymore? So you have to move on and come into, some environment where you can do that. Yeah, I'm doing all, where I work, everything is part of a Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, and we're trying to we provide services to an agency for the state of Michigan, and so I'm in agency services. We're in between the rock and the hard place when it comes to IT. So when an agency needs to do stuff, we've got development staff and things like that where we can do things in-house. The pendulum swings very heavily in government from let's outsource it to vendors. Let me switch cameras here. Sorry. From outsource everything to a vendor as a SaaS solution or COTS to build it in-house because we know our business, all right, and somewhere in between. So what'll happen is you'll go through waves where an agency wants to have everything developed in-house, so you staff up for it and everything, and then you go through another wave 10, 20 years later where they don't want to have anything to do with in-house development, and now all you're doing is supporting the legacy applications and integrating with whatever the new hotness is. Changes all the time, okay? Change is constant. And the problem is that responding to those needs, using stuff like Power Platform, we could, if we got adept at it, we could be that glue in between those SaaS applications because they have to be able to interface with legacy systems or other agencies and things like that. It's a way to save our development staff. But if it's a low-code environment only, who's going to want to do that? What kind of a developer wants to work in that? These are the challenges right now. By legislative mandate and directives from the 80s, agencies in our state government are not allowed to do system development. They can do individual productivity apps and things, but they can't do anything that's system development, which means they have to come to my group to get that done. But at the same time, they're looking at these things going, why can't we have our staff do this kind of development? And it's because we're 20 years out of date. We're always out of date. I'm required by civil service rules to hire people that have 4-year degrees. And I'll tell you, I'd rather have, given a choice between someone with a 4-year degree and very little experience and someone with 15 or 20 years experience as a developer without a degree, I'll take the developer with the experience over somebody with a degree who doesn't have the experience. I want people that can solve problems, and that does not mean that they have to have a 4-year degree. But because of the civil service rules, I'm constrained and have to do that. I'm working around the edges of it as much as I can. Anyway, I don't want to get any farther into that because, opinions vary, and that's an opinion. And I have to be careful how much I talk about this kind of stuff. But this is true anywhere. Corporate America, private industry. It's also true for federal and other state governments, or even county organizations, that you run into stuff like this all the time. Can you come work for me? If you move to Michigan and become a citizen, you can. You have to also come into the office 2 days a week. There is no 100% remote, unfortunately. And that is political. So, won't say any more about it there. Yeah, you do have experience. I've run into people all the time that I'd love to have work for me, and I can't. Because they don't live in the state of Michigan. You have to reside in the state of Michigan. Even if you're a contractor, you have to have a residence in the state of Michigan, even if you're not a citizen of Michigan. So, yeah, you just have to, Canada just has to annex Michigan. So, how are you coming on that? Anyway, okay. We're at the hour point, and I haven't had breakfast yet, so I'm going to call it here. I want to thank everybody for showing up. I know this wasn't an Apple April's stream because, frankly, I kind of ran out of content that I wanted to do on Apple IIs, including the Apple IIe. I could have done this inside of on the Apple II GS, but no. You don't have a debugger, interactive debugger on HyperCard on the Apple II GS. So that's a serious limitation for me because I don't write perfect code. Surprise. Anyway, next week, I have no idea what I'm going to do yet, but it'll probably be programming. Sorry, Trina. But it might be hardware. I don't know. Maybe it'll be more of the CMS stuff. Maybe I'll do another AI thing. I don't know. We'll see. The week could bring any number of things. I want to acknowledge the people that were here and thank you for joining. I appreciate people showing up so early on a Saturday morning. I know it's not the optimal time for everybody, but hopefully it does entertain you. So the HyperCard user group, it's dead. It's not going to happen. Not the official one. Not getting anywhere with that. Unfortunately, I think user groups of the classic sense are a dying art, so be it. I am going to create my own user group, even if it's just what I do through YouTube. Anyway, I guess I am creating a user group, if you want to think about it that way. Yeah, no hugs for you. So I'm going to have to come up with my own, non-trademark, non-copyright infringing thing that I can still use the acronym HUG, because I really like HUG. It's so warm and fuzzy. Anyway, what else? Oh, I have a coffee right here. If you guys want to contribute to that, feel free to. No obligation, obviously. I also have a Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can support me in my endeavors. All that money goes out to other creators from the Patreon. I use the thing to, stuff to, funds that I receive to do hardware repair and other things. I'm going to be at VCF Midwest this year. They haven't released applications for tables yet. I do intend to get a table if I can. Going to be all about HyperCard programming and how much does Hug cost? Hug is completely free. Free hugs for everyone. Hopefully I can, if I get rid of the Apple, and HyperCard is also a trademark term, and you can't have Apple in front of, things. There's a bunch of rules about that. I'm going to come up with something that's a vintage HyperCard user group logo. So, vintage hug, V-hug, I don't know, hug-a-V. When I have time to work on it. VCF Midwest, I also haven't heard whether or not I'll be able to get a panel session yet. If I do, it'll be about HyperCard most likely. So I hope if you can go to Midwest, it's in Chicago, the Chicago area. It's probably the bigger of the VCFs out there. But if you can get to a local group or something like that, please do. I just discovered that there is a Southeastern Michigan vintage computer user group that meets, and I missed. They had a showcase user group event beginning of April. Didn't even know about it. So hopefully I can hook up with them sometime. Looked like it was a lot of 8-bit, but they included Apple. What else? So, if you cared for this video at all, even if you didn't, please hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Be good to people. Do all the things. Have fun with tech. And I'll see you next weekend on Saturday. Bye. Oh, where's the button? Yeah, there's a button here somewhere for the outro. Okay, loud music to follow. Hot mic. The mic is still hot. Yes, I know. I should add an action in the control panel I'm using to mute this mic while I'm doing the outro. But I think it's kind of fun that I get to talk like this, and you guys are probably trying to hear me over the music, but I don't know how loud it is. So there's that too. I really like this music. Thanks for watching. See you next time.